You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You're now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7. My brothers are in the building, starting off with the one and only Jay Moore. How are you, sir?
Doing well, election night.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, I'm about it. If everybody's talking about I'm going to go to Canada, I'm ready to go. I got on my Toronto jersey. Let's do it.
Boy said he ready to go. I respect it. Lonegevity, how are you, sir?
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
Excited?
In what manner would I?
I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My man DJ Jay Diff, what's happening, man?
Salutations.
Everything good your way, my brother?
Yeah, I'm the best. I told you that.
Thank you for that.
Run with it.
See you repping our era.
Hey,
What,
man,
sir?
a little nostalgia, that's all.
Everybody went outside.
So, in recent news, one of music's biggest music icons has passed away, Quincy Jones. Mr. Jones's career covered over 6 decades in multiple genres. He worked with artists such as Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson, countless others during his illustrious career. Quincy Jones.
Icon.
Man.
Legend.
Thoughts?
I mean,
Man.
this is Quincy Jones we talking about here.
Man.
Where does it begin? You know what I'm saying? I mean, he lived multiple lifetimes in one. He's responsible for 2 of the biggest albums in the history of music itself. He's worked with legendary artists. He is the fabric of music. I mean, he started in jazz and transitioned into being the producer that we know, the executive producer, the one that really found artists. I mean, he's responsible for finding Tevin Campbell, Tamia, just to name a few. And he was born in Chicago, so that's another Midwest representative that Midwest makes the world go round as far as musically, as far as I'm concerned.
Talk to him.
Now, Quincy Jones is an icon. I can't really say much more than that, honestly.
We talk about the producer GOAT here, the producer GOAT there, us being associated with hip hop for so long, that always comes up. But this is actually the guy that's the guy from a production standpoint. His documentary that was on, I believe, Netflix came out a few years ago. Amazing. I suggest anybody has not watched that, please go back and watch it.
The We Are the World one, too.
Yes, that one as well. How he pulled everybody together that night. Good call. But nah, man, this dude is just phenomenal. And I don't want it to get lost that he's a musician first. Trained musician and composer, writer, big band leader. So when Sinatra found him and he was just a young writer coming up, and the next thing you know, he's leading his band, that was crazy back then. And then you fast forward to The Wiz, and then now you starting to look at Michael Jackson's records that we all know. And an actual producer like this story.
Will Smith's resurgence is due to Quincy Jones.
100%. Talking about when Will tells a story about how Q made him audition for the Fresh Prince when all those people were there, wouldn't let him leave. Like, he has his foot in everything, and he preceded us all and still was a part of our childhood. That speaks volumes as to his longevity, as a producer and just as a creative. So, man, one of my favorite quotes is when he said, Diddy wouldn't know a B flat if it hit him. I love that comment.
Yeah.
Because it speaks so much to a dude that was cut from the cloth that's an actual musician. And he's stunting on him like, okay, yeah, they call you producer and this and that because you can, get in the studio and point your finger a couple times. But nah, fam, I was on the sheet music. Like, we was writing this back in the 50s and 60s. That's the biggest. I love that comment.
That's true to a lot of artists nowadays too, though. What Quincy said, like you said, they were cut different.
Yeah.
But what's weird is him dying on Diddy's birthday,
Man.
or the night before.
Oh, yeah, I didn't put...
Yeah, I didn't even think about it like that, bro. That's a good call. Hey, I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, man. But yeah.
Now, this dude he's one of one, man. He's inspired and influences all at some point. If you're creative,
one of the things that, and I gotta just go ahead and say that I took this from Bomani Jones when he spoke about him a little bit earlier, is like there's a Forrest Gump like quality to Quincy Jones's career. When you think about, okay, I'm going to go to Seattle and I just happen to run into Ray Charles.
Man.
Okay. Then when you talk about the story about Will Smith literally just being in L.A. at a party because, you know, his girlfriend said, hey, maybe you should go out to L.A. and see if you can get on the Arsenio Hall show. This is when Will Smith was flat broke and, you know, his most recent album had failed. He had no reason for anybody to even want him to be on TV at that point. And then he winds up at this party with Quincy Jones, and that, you know, and without that 10 minutes that he talks about, there is no Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which means there is no 5 billion or whatever it is that Will Smith has generated, you know, and been, you know, one of the most bankable stars in the history of the movies. And then, you know, of course, then he winds up producing and then doing music for The Color Purple, which is something that has stood the test of time. You know, then even if you talk about, you know, everybody knows the story of Michael Jackson in Thriller and Off the Wall and Bad, but basically they just happen to meet on the set of The Wiz. Yeah. And he was like, you know, and at this point, Quincy was doing, you know, scores and he had done jazz. But to step into the realm of pop music, that really wasn't, you know, that wasn't really something so much people, it was all jazz artists. It wasn't say, hey, let's do some dance music. You know, that wasn't, you know, for this extremely young artist at the time. You know, he had been working with Frank Sinatra and people who had been, you know, a bit more established. Yeah. You know, because even at that time, you know, Quincy's a great deal older than Michael. You know, you got to think about it. This is how transcendent Quincy Jones has been. He has 2 documentaries about his life. One of them came out in 1990. It was called Listen Up. Remember, that was a big deal because it came out around the same time as the Back on the Block album. Yeah. Which is something that is also, because Quincy, honestly, he could have been one of those guys that was dismissive of hip hop. Yeah. But he embraced hip hop. That's how Big Daddy Kane and Melly Mel and Ice-T have Grammys, because they were featured on, I believe the track was a Birdland. There was a couple things Back on the Block, the actual song Back on the Block, but there was some remixes out there. The
Tomorrow record with Tevin Campbell and all the kids singing in the background. Right. I think that's on that album. So that's one of his best joints.
So when you think about the fact that, like, you know, he had a situation where, you know, him and Kendrick Lamar actually had like a situation when they were cool. So you can draw a line that starts at Quincy Jones. Sorry, not Quincy. Of course, Quincy Jones, but starts at Ray Charles in Seattle. Yeah, and then goes all the way to Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, and you know, there's really not anybody else in American pop culture that can have that kind of career to where you can't say there's not a part of the culture he did not touch, whether it be television, because of course people's part of the production. Print. Yeah, television and print. You know, with Vibe magazine, television with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Mad TV. You know, these are things that cannot be dismissed as far as the pop culture, and did it on a major level. Emmys, pretty sure there's several Grammys mixed in. Probably
there they are.
Yeah. I
some
mean,
of them.
If I don't know all the stats, but there's probably at least a Tony or an Emmy nomination all in there somewhere, you know. So I mean, there's pretty much nobody as accomplished as Quincy Jones, you know. And you know, I know people say, oh, you know, 91, you know, it's so sad that look, man, he got the most out of 91 years that I think is anybody could have got out of 91 years.
That's what we call a full life.
He lived multiple lives in one. So yeah. Here's a little trivia though about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Which I know the Kid and Play was initially supposed to take those.
Yes,
actually,
heard that story.
That was something else that they were offered.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
No, it was actually that, and they didn't get it because of they had a lawsuit or something going on with something. So they moved on from them, and then start messing with decided to go with
House Party.
No. See, this is what, because like I saw Kid Play. They were actually on Willie D's situation. They kind of cleared this up. Because remember, they had that cartoon. Right. Yeah. And they were upset that the cartoon got canceled. Because cartoon was actually around the same time as the first House Party. And
I remember that.
They basically had a deal, because it was Quincy Jones was pitching them as well. And it's going to be this thing with them and some of you know the comedian Don Rickles. Mm-hmm. Like, and yeah, there was going to be kind of like a odd couple, like old white man with 2 young black kids in some college situation. And that was going to be their show. So
I always thought it was with what's called.
Yeah, it was because it was this whole thing where the story got crossed up that initially, like I think it's because initially they wanted House Party to be Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff, and then you know
that's what it was.
That's what
and they got in the mix up because they were using the Nightmare on Elm Street,
exactly,
and they had a lawsuit going with the company.
Yeah, and so like they got the first right of refusal, you know, and they said, well, it worked out for Kid and Play.
Yeah,
so
you know what's crazy is as people that work in music or you know or whatever you want to call it. And Lone can speak to this from a production standpoint, the way music is created now with, Ableton and MIDI tracks and how all this stuff is, how hard it is to actually, if you sat down and read sheet music before, and you know how hard it is to actually score jazz and score music like that, your mind has to be on a completely different level to be able to write that out. So it's amazing, man, to think that he went from that all the way to, like you said, messing with Kendrick. And you hear Dr. Dre talk about, like, he's the godfather, he's the GOAT, he's the one. It's just, hey, like you said, man, that's 2 or 3 lives. Full ones.
Yeah, he's a career musician. He literally breathed life into music, and that was his lifeblood as well. So,
facts.
What else can you say about him?
And
Job well done.
Job well done.
And he liked beautiful women, man. Shout out to Quincy. You always got the bad one.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah.
All right. Rest in peace to Quincy Jones. The Hot Boyz have reunited, and they did so at Lil Wayne's Louisiana Fest recently.
Louisiana Fest.
Lil Wayne's Louisiana Fest. Lil Wayne, Louisiana. It's whatever.
There you go.
It's all the same thing. Whatever. Yeah, semantics. But yeah, there's a reunion, and Manny Fresh on stage. Check this out.
Everybody separate. Now let's do it together. You heard me? Come on.
That is just a short little snippet of that. But yeah, Hot Boyz reunited. How does that make you feel?
Awesome. I like it. I like to see everybody free.
Mm-hmm.
They did what they were supposed to do. Granted, it's in Louisiana. It's going to go off. It was good from a cultural standpoint, especially people that were fans of the Hot Boyz.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them collectively and solo acts. That was good to see. And honestly, to me, this had a better impact for him and them as a whole than him performing on the Super Bowl.
I'm talking about Wayne?
Yeah, Lil Wayne. Because, even from that performance, that was a great performance. It made me feel good seeing it. But at the same time, I don't see that happening at the Super Bowl.
Right.
I think what a lot of people have to realize is culturally, as a whole country, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
To where they're going to accept the Hot Boyz performing at the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. And it's even from a vantage point of view, usually a Super Bowl show is more lively, explosive.
It's like a medley.
Yeah.
Usually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's
way more than just a
performative. It's more performative.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I don't really see them fitting that mantra, so to speak. But I would go see them if they came here in concert or on tour. I'm going.
Yeah.
They had a lot of back and forth issues that they couldn't get together. So it's good to finally see it, all come together with everybody on the stage. Because it took me back, and I'm not saying I was, the biggest Hot Boyz fan, but I knew about them and was listening to the music back then. So. No, it was dope to me, man. It's just good. And hopefully they can turn this into something, to Terry's point.
Absolutely.
Where, BG and Turk, they can get a little love. Because Manny and Juvie, they've been performing and can pretty much continue that. Wayne don't need performing.
The thing about Wayne is they said that he was one of the most instrumental in wanting to make sure that this happened.
I believe that.
So
yeah, I believe that.
Even though we know the past, probably some bad blood, some bad contracts even, made them go their separate ways. At the end of the day, they are brothers.
Yeah.
Not blood, but by association. So, it's just awesome that the biggest act of the group was like, nah, we need to come together and make this happen. So, yeah.
No, I agree. 100%.
No, it was cool to see. This was an era. This was a moment in hip hop, and, especially when we see so many people within the culture, dying in their 40s and early 50s, for cooler heads to prevail, and people say, hey, let's just let's give everybody what they want.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and I did see some other clips. I'm like, there is part of me was like, look, Wayne, you got to stop whining about not getting the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that ship has sailed. Like, and now it's getting to the point where you really are kind of lame for still bringing it up. Like, I don't want to say, don't you already have enough? But like, that's kind of how I feel. It's like, you act like this is the biggest slight. I mean, yes, do you feel slighted? Fine. But at the same time, it's not like you stay bringing this up is going to help you in any way, shape, or form, other than your hardcore fans saying, yeah, they really did this to Wayne. You can't complain your way onto the Super Bowl stage.
Yeah. To Terry's point, this night right here is it. And they gave him a plaque.
Master P gave plaques, and he will receive the first star
NOLA Walk of Fame.
NOLA Walk of Fame. Yeah. That's huge to me.
He was choked up about that.
I mean, all the jazz, all the music, all the Neville brothers.
I thought about that.
I
thought about that.
The Marsalis family, and the first person you give to was Lil Wayne. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but damn, the first one.
I ain't gonna do him like that. He's had a rough year so far as being picked and chose for stuff. So I mean, it's brand new. We already know them are coming. Those are given. And I would go as far as to say Lil Wayne is probably the biggest act out of New Orleans as far as popularity. People know who he is, especially from, you know what I'm saying, newer generations. Don't nobody know who the Neville brother is.
Hey, I mean,
we do.
I get it.
But I'm saying as far as people that's like born in the 90s.
But it's about people. But it's about people in Louisiana and New Orleans, right? So that's all that really matters, the history of the city. So
acknowledge Zydeco music. What are we doing over here? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot.
I'm not mad at that one.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at anything. But once again, when Wayne talks about people who should have been in line for something.
Yeah.
Here is something where it favors you.
Maybe he should have Macklemore'd it.
Yeah. Maybe he should have been like, hey, you know what? I need to show some love to the Neville brothers. They should be the first star. But he's not going to do that.
No,
and I understand why he's not.
I
the
understand
same
why.
way I would understand if Kendrick said, no, this is my Super Bowl. Thank you very much, Wayne.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Yeah, that's my, what do they call that leaf?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, but that's mine.
Maple leaf?
No, it's not a maple leaf. Sorry.
My ginkgo leaf?
Yeah.
My oak leaf?
Got a maple leaf on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
a
a different associate of Lil Wayne.
But nah, man, shout out to Wayne, man. Wayne, once again, Wayne is a whole legend, and I'm glad his city showed out for him, and he got,
it's cool.
real life flowers in real time. So salute to Wayne. Very well deserved.
Indeed.
I can damn dig it.
So this conversation, this was one, Mike, that you shared with me. So legendary hip-hop producer Jermaine Dupri in this clip was talking about how the internet did not kill street marketing and the effect social media has on how we truly look at marketing. So let's kind of like listen to this and then dive in deeper to see if we agree with JD or not.
Human functions against internet functions, because one of the comments that I saw that came up a lot is that people like the internet killed street promotion, IG, Facebook, digital marketing, blah, blah, blah. And then my brother Clint Sparks said the internet was the new streets. And you my brother, Clint, but I have to disagree with you, because the internet is something that we pay for. The internet is something that somebody else will cut off if you don't pay for it. These apps are something that we download to use, but we can delete them and we don't have to have them in our phone at all, right? Digital marketing is the same thing. It's something that somebody has created so that we use, and the more that we use it, the more they get paid. Street promotion, like what I'm saying about these signs and whatever, is your eyes. You cannot wake up in the morning and not use your eyes. You cannot drive down the street and not use your eyes, right? I'll tell y'all real quick about the billboard, right? I was the first Atlanta to put entertainment company up on a billboard on 85 North, right? Before BMF, I did that first, right? And the social deaf billboard, and I took it down after 10 years. But after 10 years, people still come up to me and they say, "Yo, JD, why you take that billboard down?" I knew I was in Atlanta when I saw that billboard when I was coming from the airport. I never got nobody telling me they never saw it. Never. People still telling me to this day, why did I take it down? Because they miss seeing it. That's the difference with this internet. When y'all post on the internet, even like this message right now, it's not going to go to everybody. And all of the people that I want to see this, they definitely not going to see it, because Instagram they have my messages and everybody else's messages suppressed, and they circulated and let it go to how they want it to go. But that's another story. So then I saw something about saying that it reaches more people. The masses, we want to reach, internet reaches more people. I don't believe that. I believe that it's a wider spread in the percentage of people that you get. So you might get 20% of the people in Atlanta, 10% in some place that you don't even go to, 20% in Europe, and another 20% somewhere else. That's widespread, but
was that 100%?
It's not like everybody seeing it, right? With street promotion, and we talking about rap, with street promotion, say for instance, during Super Bowl, during any heavy audience event that's in somebody's city, if you have street promotion out there, it's no way that people don't see it. Everybody sees it. It's no way. They don't have to say anything about it, but they see it. And if they saw it again, they'll be like, damn, I saw that. I know what that was. You can't beat that. You can't beat that.
It's a whole lot of trust me, bro.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It translates for when he was coming up. Yeah. I mean, granted, that made a whole lot of sense to him. I mean, he was stunting. He was on to something when he did it back then. But how many of us visited Atlanta, Georgia during that time and actually seen that billboard?
I didn't see it.
I did see it.
I did see it too.
I saw it too.
Well, okay, so 3 out of the 4 seen it, but that's just because we went to Atlanta, Georgia.
Exactly.
But
So if I'm not in Atlanta, Georgia, I don't see that billboard. So it doesn't translate the same way. The thing about the net is it touches everybody. He's talking about you can turn your app off or you got to pay this service, but you're in the music business. This is literally your lifeblood now. Everybody's not printing and pressing up CDs, tapes, and records unless it's like going to a specialty or you did a pre-order beforehand. It's not moving the same way. So people are definitely grasping on and hearing your music and whatever you got going on because of the internet. Now, if you have an event going on in your city, that's totally different. I mean, we had people here, even last week when Taylor Swift was here, posted up outside performing because people are here. They know there's a lot of people in the city, so they want to be heard. So they were performing on the street. Yeah. That's a little different type of situation. That's what that happens once every or a couple times a year, maybe, but that doesn't transcend across the whole country.
Yeah, I
everybody doesn't see that. Does the internet reach everybody? Does everybody have the internet and Instagram?
If you pay for it to. Look, I will be honest.
No, I posed the question.
That's what I'm saying.
Does everybody have that?
I mean, look,
to his point.
Yes,
does everybody live in Atlanta, Georgia? Right. Like, what are we talking about?
So that's tit for tat. So
no, not really.
It's called a non sequitur.
No, what I'm saying is he's saying everybody's not on Instagram, right?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
All right, but they're on one of the platforms.
Maybe.
No, they are.
So everybody's on one of the platforms.
Yes, at least one. I guarantee.
You think so?
Anybody that's walking around with one of these smartphones is on either Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, something. They're on one of these apps.
I only know
what's the point of having a smartphone if you're not on those apps?
Hey, I'm just saying.
I literally know one person. Shout out to my man DJ 2 Deep, who's not on any social media at all.
He's not the only one.
No, I mean, straight edge. But that's far.
But that's far. Like, because I know plenty of people who don't do Facebook but have Instagram. I know people that don't do Instagram but do TikTok. There's, is it segmented? Yes. Like, I'm just saying, like, as somebody who, I'm just saying, if you hand out flyers for a particular event here, like we don't have to talk about Atlanta or what it used to do.
Yeah.
Most of those flyers are going to wind up in the floor on the trash can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just because the way people even process promotion is different. So like now when I, for my organization, I've got to make it funny. I've got to make it eye-catching. If just posting a flyer saying who, what, when, where, that's not enough.
How many times you scroll past an ad?
Scroll past an ad?
Yeah, or a flyer or a flyer with a skit or whatever.
If it's something that by somebody that I have no connection to, and it does, but it's the same way like when people leave flyers on my car, I don't look at them, I just throw them on the ground.
Yeah.
My thing, when I see a flyer, I look and see what city and state it's from. If it's not from here, I keep it moving.
That's a good point.
These are just two completely, like, my issue with this, and my issue with you defending this, Mike, is that it doesn't make any sense. And the reason why I say this is because it's like two different arguments happening. Street promotion is a thing and internet promotion is a thing. They both can exist in the same place and they both benefit each other when both things are happening. And so, like,
I like that.
street promotion can touch people in a physical nature when it's like hand-to-hand conversational things that you're having conversation like that there's something to be said about, I had a conversation with this person or outside of just like a flyer on like a thing, right? Like there's something to be said about having a conversation with somebody about something in a physical realm and how that can turn into other conversations. I agree with that. But at the same time, there's something to be said about the amount of potential reach on multiple platforms that the internet can do that street promotion simply can't even touch.
I think
it at all. Like it can't. And sure, there's a bazillion people not on social media, but there's a bazillion people that aren't going to walk past this one particular space in this one place or wherever this is going to be happen. It's like, what are we even what are we talking about here?
I think the way I took his comment is when he talked about what was the DJ, whatever the DJ's name was. That don't matter. He was talking about the point of it killed. I don't think he said it surpassed or was over the Instagram. I think he's talking about, okay, yeah, Instagram is this and you can get to all these people, but don't sleep on the fact that you can still reach people via the streets. That's the way I took it.
And I think I would agree with that to an extent, depending on the type of event that it is.
Right.
Like he's talking about Super Bowl promotions. How often is a Super Bowl happening in Indianapolis to where we can be like, oh, it's a Super Bowl. Let's go out and promote our show. Like,
I only saw one.
Like that. On a regular given event. And look, we're talking to people that throw events.
Man,
you know what I mean, or have many times and have struggled and have tried every single thing under the sun to try to get people to come out to events.
That's facts.
Both kind of work and both kind of don't. And a lot of it has to do, depending on the city that you're in, what else is going on in the city that day.
Absolutely.
And, I think street promotion does work to a degree.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. I don't think it's dead.
That's the way I took it.
I don't think it's dead.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it killed it, but I wouldn't say it's the leader either.
Internet is necessary evil right now, whether you like it or not. And there's a thing called hashtags. If somebody's in your city and they're looking for something to do, if you're doing it right, you can do that. Like when I was in Georgia, I was looking for a barber the day of the Outkast concert. I literally just hashtagged Georgia barbers or Atlanta barbers in a certain area, and it pulled up a whole bunch of barbers for me to take a look at versus me going out on the street. Yeah, screaming in there, hey, who cuts hair? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work
street
like
promotion.
Yeah, we're in a whole different time and age, and that type of thing just doesn't. I mean, it still works, but it's not as resourceful as it was at one point in time.
It's very segmented and it's very specific. Yeah, like it's very like. If I'm going to have a neighborhood-related event, then it makes sense for me to advertise on the street in the neighborhood. Yeah. If I'm going to be doing a major Indianapolis event, it makes sense for me to hit the streets and the pavement in that city and put stuff up all over the place. You know what I mean? But it also depends on what exactly we're talking about.
I think he was getting, to Terry's point, when he was stunting about the billboard and stuff, I think that kind of got him hyped up about, got him kind of hyped up about what he used to do and what, used to work or things that he tries to do. But that was just the thing that jumped out to me. I didn't take it as it's past. It's just, don't get it twisted. It still works.
Well, I also took it as like he was trying to, maybe he was just a little defensive in the clip. Maybe that's all that it was.
A little bit.
That's what I'm saying. He was trying to flex a little bit.
He right about that flex though.
Up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he had it up in Atlanta, Georgia though. Yeah. Again, people are saying, why'd you take it down? Because after a while it becomes embedded in the community. So like if I look up there and I don't see it anymore, it's like, damn, what happened to that? It's like there's a billboard that a family puts up all the time off of on the east side. I can't remember, off of Pendleton Pike, I think, a memory of this person that passed. They do it every single year. So if I look up and I don't see it, I'm kind of like, damn, why didn't they put the billboard up? Yeah. But it's like, it's only true for people in that area. It doesn't resonate, him having that billboard up for us, even though we've seen it, but it doesn't make us run back to the crib and be like, oh man, JD got a so deaf billboard up. Y'all should probably check him out because he got a big ass billboard over the city.
Yeah. And I think there is something also to be said. Like he did make some good points about how these platforms limit who can see things, right?
Yeah,
because that's a very valid piece. Yeah. But the solution isn't like street promotion doesn't fix that. Is it would be my argument. Like it's just you can't. it's like a necessary evil in a way, because you can reach so many people with that, and especially if you have any type of budget at all to target your promotion and stuff. And most of these people do have that type of budget, so it's like if you have the budget and you can spend it on advertising, then you can reach the people that are looking to do these things. So
necessary evil is definitely. I know Terry said that first, but that's a bar.
Yeah,
that's a bar right there.
And plus, if you are too broke that you can't keep your phone on, you ain't got no apps, I don't need you to worry about what I'm doing at the spot.
I heard that.
Yeah, your phone literally comes loaded with apps. If you got a smartphone, you have apps on it. I mean, that whole point was damn near stupid to me.
You can uninstall it.
You can.
Come on, man. Be like the people that always announce they're taking a break from social media. All right.
Like, yeah, you didn't have to tell us that.
I'll let you.
Yeah.
Would you say we'll see you when you get back?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, we weren't paying attention like that when you were here.
Maybe not. Yeah.
So on Thursday, October 24th, 2024 at Select Con in New York, Joe Budden sat down with Steve Stoute for an in-depth mogul talk conversation. They discussed what real ownership means and why it's so valuable. Joe pivoting from the music space to podcasting and the future of media, from how artists interact with their fans and to AI's impact and so forth. That interview is available on YouTube. But this particular clip here is about artists in the music business. It's something that we've kind of talked about in the past a little bit, but it's kind of funny because it's like Joe Budden telling Steve Stoute that some artists are just comfortable getting effed. And he said we should leave space for that.
You feel like artists must now be ambidextrous. They have to be able to do their craft, but also have a business mind.
I say yes, but we should leave that lane open for the people that are just comfortable getting Hey, I'm an artist only. You gotta know what you're saying when you say that. That means I don't never wanna talk about back end. That's what it means. And you can't be having a conversation about wealth if you never wanna talk about a back end. So yeah, you probably should get ambidextrous. You probably should learn to be both. This is the era where the artists are learning that they are the business. See, we didn't know that in our era. And if you are the business, then you can't pass that off to someone.
There were very few artists. Coming up in the 90s and 2000, there were very few artists that actually understood the business. They wanted to be artists. They hired their man from the neighborhood who was their manager, and that was the package that would go in and negotiate a deal and do whatever. And the record companies obviously took advantage of that. Today's artist, today's podcaster, whatever you're doing in the internet economy, you need to be able to be mindful of your business. It's your responsibility. You gotta hire a good team. You gotta identify a good team. You also have to do your craft. It's not like it's an option unless you are going to get.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I mean,
Thoughts?
We have talked about this in our own way. And, I've made the point on more than one episode of this podcast is there are some people who are looking to be famous and some people who are looking to be rich. All right. And now we have a lot of artists who are, to Joe's point, understand being ambidextrous. I hope I didn't mess that word up. I
think he did, but
yeah, hey,
it's okay.
It's all good.
Ambidextrous.
And you have to have, okay, what are my points? What do I get here? What is this brand deal? How much am I paying to a manager? How much am I paying to an agent? What are my points looking like? How many points do I even have? There are a lot of people who just didn't worry about that at one point because they're like, do I get to be at the MTV Awards? Because that was the only thing that really mattered. Do I get to be on stage with TLC? That'd be great.
That would be great.
And so it is a point that we've kind of made before because a lot of people who get into this business, not so much now, but back in the day where there's always the same story. It was like, well, I didn't know anything about publishing. I didn't know anything about brand deals. I didn't realize that, the people that were making my deals were taking 80% of my money. When we talk about, how NWA and they weren't getting the money they were supposed to get, and that's what wound up breaking them up. We talk about how New Edition come off the road and they only have $1.87.
Yeah,
these are the stories that we've heard over and over again. I don't like now. I see rappers who aren't selling anything, but somehow they have all this money and they're flying private and they have all these chains and they're buying $5 million houses. Somebody's wised up a little bit and figured some of this stuff out. I'm not saying everybody, but I do think there are some artists who. I see them. If you give them a watch and a chain and a Range Rover, they'll be like, oh man, I'm not trying to hear all that. I'm on tour. I'm getting $10,000 a walkthrough, and they think that's real money, and they don't understand like they're their shelf life is so short that, we're going to be like saying, oh man, what happened to so-and-so in 2 years? And there's got to be no avenue for them to get anything close to the money that they're supposed to have received.
One of the things that he also talked about on this was specifically with Joe, was how Joe mentioned that he really wasn't getting paid a lot early on for the Everyday Struggle stuff, even though the Everyday Struggle was what the Everyday Struggle was. It was a kind of a monumental podcast in a way. And even the Joe Budden podcast and the stuff that he was starting, he was like, yeah, we weren't getting paid for anything up front. He's like, the thing that you kind of have to learn is like that we had to learn, and he said it's kind of mirrors the artistry in the podcast space, was that, you get what you put into it. Like you can have a podcast and you just be on a podcast and you can just do stuff. But there's so many other things outside of just talking on a podcast that you need to do for the podcast to be good.
Yep.
And so it also goes to Jay's point where it's like, do you just want to be famous? Do you just want to sit on the podcast and talk? Or do you want to be successful and you want to put in the work behind that goes involved in the podcast? And that is a very good mirroring of everything in the creative space in general.
Yeah.
Because you can't just show up with something that you're trying to create from scratch that nobody... unless you have the budget and all these other things, you can't just show up and do the thing a few times and expect to have something. There's so much work that is involved in the behind the scenes, the ambidextrous aspect of it, right? Of being able to do multiple things outside of just the thing that you want to do. For example, us talking on the show as opposed to us doing all the things behind the scene. Is the same as an artist creating music, but also spending time to develop all the things that they're doing behind the scenes as well, and having a content creation system set up to get your stuff out there and all this stuff like that. So we've talked about this before, but that was the other aspect that he was kind of leaning on as well. So
I'm gonna take this kind of from the artist point of view, being the artist that only wants to focus on their work. Now that's respectable in a sense for those who are actually artists versus somebody that wants to get on just to be seen or have your homies think you doing some, or even people across the country just because you pop up here and there at a club appearance and you look like you doing something. I think this is more geared towards an actual artist who has no concern about the business end. It's almost like this is a wake-up call. You need to be smarter and learn about that business end, or have people in your corner that are going to do those jobs for you so that you can focus on the music career.
Yeah,
because sometimes
building a team is what he said as well.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be able to build the team out to do the things that you need. So
because sometimes the music might be the only thing that you have that's going to translate to people. And if you have to focus on the other things, then it's taken away from the thing that you actually know how to do. So I understand what he's saying as far as some people are comfortable being in a position to pretty much, get played or get a bad record deal or whatnot, because they're so in tune with that music. It's almost like an idiot savant. They don't really care about getting paid. They just want to be there, but somebody's getting paid off of it. Yeah. So you got to be smarter. You got to be smarter and have those people in your corner. They're going to help you. Like you said, the team help you build in order to make sure that you're not getting at the end of the day.
I think the artists that are so involved with their music is a good thing. It's usually they put out good product when they're focused on their product. But like you all have said, everybody has said, it's very important to understand both sides. But I like the team concept. Even if I'm the type of person that will still stick my head in to understand what's going on, but you have to also be comfortable with the people that you hire for your team. So if you have enough people around you that know more than you, but you can trust them first and foremost, and that makes it that much easier for you to go lock back in. So I don't think it's bad, especially now, for the artist to, quote unquote, go into the meetings. I think that's dope. But as you continue to build a team and less of that happens, I think you can get back to who you actually are, which is just the artist. Like, that's how I would approach it. Like, I want to learn, but eventually I want to be able to trust the guys around me to say, look, we already know what the back end is going to look like, so I can get back to this product.
And that was kind of Joe's point of the whole thing, was Steve asking him, and he said, some artists are just comfortable getting effed, right? So it's like,
yeah,
like it's like Joe says, like, then you just don't care about the back end. Like,
yeah.
Like Terry said, the idiot savant thing. It's like, I know talented people that don't put any type of thought at all into the thing that they're doing to generate something. And it's like, that's fine and dandy if you just want to like be in your own little world and do your thing. But if you want to do anything outside of that, like at that point when you decide to not be proactive about those things, that's also where you have to like, you don't get to care anymore about the other things either.
Right.
It's like, nah, that's a wrap. You're just somebody that goes out and does it and doesn't care about that. But if you want to build wealth, that's a different conversation. If you want to build some sort of leverage, some sort of thing bigger than yourself, and and all that stuff, then it takes.
Because a lot of these artists that were in that era where it wasn't quite right yet, paperwork wasn't quite right, they're not receiving what they should be receiving now because of that. So that's the lesson, like they were talking about. That's the lesson.
Yep.
So if you want it 30 years from now, when you want everything to still be set up, like Jay Moore said, we've alluded to that over and over again, that bad paperwork. We was just talking about that earlier. Yeah, stick your head in there and learn what's going on. Know where your money's coming from and where it's going. You have to.
Look, so many people have just been happy to be paid in fame.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's you'd be like, oh, well, look, I got the gift bag, and then, oh, I did get this money from the door.
Yeah.
But money from the door is not, what you would call, money while you sleep money. That's where you're publishing your songwriting and the things that wind up getting signed away. That's how, sometimes these artists look up and they're like, man, I wish if I'd have just paid a little bit more attention. Like, I saw an interview with, of all people, Young MC. Yeah. And he talked about, some of these things. And it's like, he eventually got it right.
Yep.
But here he is writing hits for Tone Loc and himself for Delicious Vinyl. And it's just like, hey, but I'm signed to somebody who signed to somebody who signed to somebody. And, I'm looking up and it's 18 months later and I haven't seen a check.
It's a legendary story of Michael Bivins when they were talking about when they showed it in the movie.
New Edition story.
Yeah, thank you. Well, he was like, what is this and who is this? And they explained to him, this is the music business. You guys are signed to, so it's cut before you guys get it. And he turned around and became a mogul because they hated that feeling. And now, you said this a few weeks ago. Now they are here getting that back pay because they didn't have it right back.
Well,
then.
I mean, and finally, when they learn, like I saw Ronnie DeVoe talking about, we're finally getting to a point where we own Candy Girl, and it's 35, 40 years later.
Yeah.
And so they, there's so many lessons to be learned at this point where I still feel sorry for these artists that get mistreated, and somebody tells them something and it's like, hey, you should have read your contract. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, guys, come on, we got to do better, especially considering none of y'all are selling anything.
Facts.
Yeah.
Good clip though. It's a good clip.
Okay. Yeah, that was. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and let's just go and run the partners real quick since it's about 10, and then we'll get into the rest of the show. Shouts to everybody that's in the chats.
Appreciate y'all.
The chat room. Go ahead and do this. Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com.
All right, we are back. Shout out to the partners. As always, we appreciate the support and the relationships over the years that we have built. So, shout out to them. Out to the chat, like Lone said, if you're still rocking with us or if you're lurking, that's cool too. Come on in.
All right. So, Lord Jamar made some pretty misogynistic comments in a latest rant against Cardi B, Sexy Red, and women's rights. I only have the Cardi B clip here, but Kamala Harris recently brought Cardi B to speak on behalf at a rally. Did you guys see that at all?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. And it's pretty normal for political candidates these days to pander with propaganda on both sides, and that's kind of what we're kind of going to talk about here. Being said, recently on the Art of Dialogue, Lord Jamar was asked about Cardi B's speech at a Kamala rally, and he shared these words about Cardi B and women's rights.
How do you feel about Cardi B? Kamala bringing her out last night.
Yeah, I saw it. It was interesting. To have an artist like Cardi B go up there to try to garner more constituents to your side is just mind-blowing to me. The way she wasn't able to speak.
Protection for women, especially if we're talking about maternal and mental health care, is in telling them what to do with their bodies. It's supporting them and giving them the care they need for what they choose to do with their bodies. People like Donald Trump don't believe women deserve rights. And when those rights are taken away, they are nowhere to be found. When a mother's going through postpartum, he's not there to hold her hand. When a child is in foster care or in a shelter because their mother is not mentally stable or financially stable to take care of them, they're not there. They're all gone. Those people outside Planned Parenthood screaming at women's faces, they don't be there when women go through stuff. They don't.
Fluently was very disturbing. Her whole history, first of all, her history of who she is. This is an ex-stripper who admitted to drugging dudes and robbing them and all kind of stuff, who has songs like Wet Ass Pussy with the other one, Meg Thee Stallion. These are the people that you decide to bring up there to represent your campaign. It's psycho. And then one of the first things they want to talk about is all this quote unquote reproductive rights, which to me is a crock of shit. All of this shit about people, women, the control of their bodies, and it's nonsense. You're fighting for the right to kill children, period, and to be murderers.
So there was a lot there.
A lot.
There's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So the broader conversation here, I mean, we can talk about what we just listened if we care to, but I think the broader conversation here is about propaganda.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And is propaganda good? Is there a place for propaganda? And does it matter if Kamala ends up winning?
That's the question. Whomever she selects to come out and speak, and if they're articulate or not, or rapper or history, whatever, does it matter? Does it truly matter if she wins?
And I will say, I listened to Cardi B. English is not her first language. Am I wrong here?
No, she's bilingual. She speaks fluent Spanish.
That's what I mean. Like,
she does.
Like, okay. Still, like, she spoke just fine in the things that I saw. Now, granted, she's Cardi B and she's reading off her phone. It's whatever. But like, I think she articulated the stuff that I saw perfectly fine.
Yeah, I do too.
And I don't have any issue with that. I don't have any issues with her being a stripper in the past life, or her being a rapper, or her having a song about the things that she talks about. I don't think any of that stuff is meritable to diminishing somebody's character to be like, oh, they did this, so that means that they don't have a voice or something. Like,
I'm talking about a president running with felonies pending.
What are we talking about?
Come on, man.
So, but yeah, the propaganda, I don't know. You guys jump in however you guys want to jump in here. My
only issue with Cardi B or anybody who's been a surrogate, if you will, for Kamala is and the thing is, when you listen to what Cardi B actually said, regardless of how she said it or where she was reading it off of her phone, these are real things that women are concerned with.
Yes.
Okay. And like I said, man, it's hard for me not to make things personal when I know better. Mm-hmm. But everybody thinks it's just like women who are like, well, look, I'm trying to go to Cancun, so I got to go ahead and and do what I got to do. No, a lot of these things are actual medical procedures that save women's lives. And there are literally women who are bleeding out in parking lots right now because of the reversal of Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court. So there are women who are actually being hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm sensitive to that sort of thing. And like a lot of men, we just aren't sensitive to the things that women go through after they've had children, the struggle it is to bring a child into this world and to remain healthy, and the changes that women's bodies go through based on this. We just think that women are, selfish women, abort their children when they got better things to do. And I'm not going to act like there's not women that do that. And sometimes they do that at the behest of a man. So,
right.
We got to have layered conversations if we're going to have these conversations at all. But here nor there, I do think that someone else could have delivered this message, not because Cardi B was a stripper or Cardi B, has songs that you find objectionable due to their content, but because Donald Trump has been so unserious. I think the way to really if I was a part of her, Kamala's strategy team, and like, who am I? But, I just say, look, man, we got to get people who on stage who are doctors. We need to hear from the women who have, had to been traumatized due to, legislators and judges making decisions instead of doctors. I know we can't be so caught up in celebrity culture. It's like, look, okay, Hulk Hogan and Scott Baio and Amber Rose are over there. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk to doctors. We're going to talk to lawyers. We're going to talk to the people who actually been affected by policy. I just think that having Megan Thee Stallion come out and because at first, like,
I remember,
I hated that. I'll be honest. I was like, no, now is not the time for the twerk contest.
Right.
Like, we have serious business to do. And so while I can't say I agree with Lord Jamar, because he also thinks the earth is flat and thinks he could hang in a debate with Neil deGrasse Tyson. But I think that if there's anything where the Democrats say Kamala does not pull this out, where they could have really done better, is they should have been more serious in their messaging and not try to lean so hard on celebrity, because right now there are people going through real things, and like, okay, Cardi B, like, look, like I said, Ja Rule might have some things he might have some things I don't have. I don't need his answers right now. I don't need to hear from Cardi B and Megan, and I don't think they had Sexy Red on any of these stages, but I don't, these aren't the people who are going to sway the people who are on the fence right now. We need to, I feel like it should have been much more serious. And I could be wrong in 3 hours when they declare Kamala
we're gonna find out
the winner.
I think that's kind of the question, because, not all propaganda is bad propaganda. Propaganda just means that you're trying to influence somebody.
Right.
So it, I think it's how the propaganda is used in what way. Now, I'm guessing that they probably did some sort of polling, and they probably were like, it would probably be good to get a specific type of base to vote if we had somebody like Cardi B. And one thing that I will say about Cardi B, all things considered, is that she isn't just somebody who doesn't pay attention to the stuff. Like, she has made multiple Instagram posts, videos, and stuff in the past. She has addressed politicians and stuff like this in the past. Is she necessarily a doctor, like you said, or anything to that degree? No, she's not. But she's also somebody that does have an opinion, that has spoken up about this. So it's not like it's completely out of left field.
No, it isn't.
In that manner,
I mean, it's like Dame Dash used to always say that one of the things that people got mad at him about was how he said things versus what he said, right. To your point. Because sometimes we get caught up in how it sounds and appearance and delivery, and we kind of look past to what we always allude to or call the meat and potatoes of what's actually being said.
I don't think that was necessarily the case with Cardi B here, though, because she didn't say anything that she shouldn't have said, and it didn't sound like she was illiterate to what she was speaking about. So I'm going to compare what she was talking about to what Amber Rose was talking about.
Good call.
Now, she was reading off of her phone. Okay, people read off of a teleprompter. You can't see that. It's perfectly fine. She didn't say anything. She didn't mix up her words. She was articulate as far as I could hear. I don't think she said anything wrong. And nobody had anything to say about when Eminem brought Barack Obama out in Detroit. I mean, he's a controversial artist.
Yeah.
Very.
What's the point if we're not picking on him? Why are we picking on Cardi B? She was not performing at this.
True.
She was literally talking. And these politicians use people of the culture in order to sway people. Because, I mean, granted, like you said, people that are actually being affected, a doctor, a lawyer, or somebody that actually went through something. Yeah, people are going to listen to that. But it's not Cardi B. They know who Cardi B is. People who don't want to know who Cardi B is know who Cardi B is. Mm-hmm. So they're paying attention based off of that.
Yeah.
It's all the cultural visuals trying to get people involved that weren't before. Granted, I couldn't stand when she had Meg Thee Stallion twerking at the event either.
Right.
That was just stupid. But in the same token, Trump had a comedian literally bashing everybody at his. Like, he didn't care.
An entire island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Entire island, entire people.
Up there making watermelon jokes.
Come on, man.
I was like, okay. But once again, that's where I feel like the Democrats in their messaging should have been ultra serious. And
it's not going to do them any good, though. Because you got Trump. Trump isn't serious at all.
I kind of agree with Terry here.
He literally had a glass shield in front of him. He's talking about the fake news in front of me. If they try to shoot me, they got to shoot through them. I don't mind that. He's never serious.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why do the Democratic side of things have to always be so serious and upfront and we're just going to take it on the chin and not. I ain't for that, man.
Well, I don't think it's about
speaking personally. Like if somebody's jabbing at me, I'm not about to just sit back and keep taking that shit, man. I'm cool.
And at the default, before you jump in, Jay,
go ahead.
At the default, like the Democratic Party is just there. The Republican Party's seriousness is the standard is so low. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you can do almost anything and be more serious than the Republican Party.
Well, it's now that I think about it, shout out to Terry, you really did kind of jog my memory to something I said. Because how Facebook will bring up some stuff, and I said and so like this is where I really agree with your point now that I think about it, because I said the Democrats will show up to a gunfight with charts and graphs and note cards, and the Republicans show up with a gun.
Yeah.
And so I guess, if you're talking about bringing out Cardi B and Megan and going all in on the celebrity is like, and how America is obsessed with celebrity and how these news cycles and how everything works, you got to start showing up to gunfights with a gun, and the gun is celebrity. So you know what? In this moment, my mind was changed. So there you go.
Hey. She should have got Taylor Swift. That would have been that would have been the ace in the deck. If Taylor Swift had came out and said something other than her pretty much supporting her, if she was actually at these events, that would have. Hey, I don't care what nobody says.
We've seen
culturally seeing these people makes people sway a certain way.
Yeah, let Caitlin Clark park out there.
We've seen firsthand. We've seen firsthand here how Taylor Swift move and how she travel. Impact is ridiculous. To his point about the ace,
it's essentially just beating Trump at his own game.
Yeah,
he's just a populist, like in that aspect. Like you listen to Trump speak. I shared this video and it was kind of.
I love this video.
Funny. It was of shouts to streamer Destiny. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he makes good points sometimes. And he said, go back in the last 8 years of Trump and point out one time that he has actually detailed any type of policy in anything. He's like, you could ask him about tariffs. He doesn't even know what a tariff is. He doesn't know what he doesn't know what the three branches of government does, and he's the president. Like
the supporters don't know what the three branches of government does.
The supporters don't understand tariffs either. There was a video that went viral about that.
Yeah.
But in general, like you kind of have to I think the Democrats are doing a decent job, at least this election cycle, of trying to meet Trump where he's at, as opposed to try to this fake liberal, holier than thou nonsense. Nah, just go and try to do the same thing that he's doing. Trump is going to bring out, I don't know, Billy Idol or something, and then we could bring out
Billy Idol isn't even American. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm thinking of
it doesn't matter.
No, Billy Joel is the American. Billy Idol is an American.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, it doesn't matter. Trump would bring out a British person anyways, and it would be like this inside joke, just like them calling themselves trash men, and then it's like you have to kind of meet them where they are because the standards is set so low. You got to, because everybody that knows better at this point.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So it's like, let's grab the people that are on the fringes a little bit. And I think that's where the Cardi B's come in. It's like, hey, if she can influence some people because she's got influence, or Taylor Swift, or
it's going to happen.
Eminem, etc.
What trips me out on the whole Elon Musk thing is you have somebody that's from South Africa who makes electric vehicles, and they pretty much don't like electric vehicles.
Oh, there's more to it than that, Terry.
I know. This is just surface things.
He was an undocumented immigrant that started his business.
How about that?
Talk to him, Lone. Talk to him. Talk to him.
Just saying.
How about that?
Like it's there's so much, and he also flip flopped because he was very anti-Trump a while ago, and now we're watching his villain arc, but. Whatever. We kind of got sidetracked, but my whole thing about this is propaganda. I think propaganda can be used. I only have a problem with propaganda when it's trying to be deceitful. And don't get me wrong, by nature it kind of is, but I mean specifically I don't know how to articulate this, but
like a political commercial that's literally lying in your face.
Yeah, I guess, like there's some stuff to where it's like you watch my mom. Shouts to my mom. I love my mom, but she shared this ass video. And it was like all of the information in it was easily debunked.
Yeah.
Just by simple Google searches, right? and it was taking different pieces of a clip and it was like splicing them together to mean something that it doesn't mean.
Yeah.
In a non-intentional way, right? Because sometimes that's done in like a funny way. The Democrats will do that in a funny way. They'll take Trump saying something out of context on purpose, and everybody's in on the joke, right? Yeah. This is one where it's literally bamboozling the entire fan base to think that, and I do say fan base serious because they're fans. They are fans.
You're a fan. You're a fan.
It was chopped up that well.
I could easily spot the, you know what I mean?
I see,
but obviously it's what I do, you know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, you know, they had music, you know, scored in the background. It was one of those. And it was like, Kamala does all these things and da-da-da-da. And I was like, one simple search, paste the link. It's just like, it gets so frustrating after a while, you know, the party of law and order. Or don't understand what facts are.
Everybody else are liars.
It's just
everybody else.
But I think the biggest piece of this, I don't really blame them as much. I blame the media, quote unquote, the entertainment outlets. Like I'm really hoping one day like a severe class action lawsuit is brought up against Fox News and their intentional horrible propaganda. Like
they already did that once. What was it? Dominion.
Yeah, so that happened, and then they got out of the lawsuit by saying that they are an entertainment website, not a news source.
Wow.
And that their supporters know that. They don't know that.
Yeah, that's cap.
So, but like, there's a difference in the type of propaganda that we're going to see on a, like, don't get me wrong, MSNBC, CNN.
Yeah.
Definitely left-wing skewed, definitely propaganda up there. But there's a different type of propaganda on Fox News.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like
Newsmax is the new
Newsmax is the one. They wild for the night.
It's like it's like the old tabloids. It's kind of like the old tabloids that you would see in the grocery stores.
The Inquirer.
Like, it's just like
the Sun. What's it called? The Sun. I remember those. Yeah, I remember those.
So that's how crazy it is. And I used to wonder back in the days, do people actually buy this stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they do. And now I'm like, oh, it's Fox News.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
So anyways, different types of propaganda. But like, for example, like I have a secret YouTube channel where I share where I share leftist propaganda. I haven't updated it in a long time, but it's obvious what it is. Like it's out in the front. It's what this is for educating people that want to understand this particular thing in a better type of manner. Everything is skewed in this manner, so pay attention to it, understanding this lens. And I think that's okay. And I think it's also okay meeting people where they're at, but I do have a problem when it's intentionally, like if Cardi B went out there and she doesn't believe what she says, that's bad propaganda.
Yeah.
If Amber Rose goes out there and she's doing it for a bag, that's bad propaganda.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Deception. 100%.
Look, I mean, because it doesn't say who you voted for, but, you know, your voting record is public information.
Yeah.
Come to find out, Waka Flocka has been out here as a Trump surrogate and has never voted.
Never voted.
Probably not registered to vote this time around either. It's just like,
telling.
Yeah.
Bro.
I'm actually very, and I'm being genuinely serious here. I'm very curious when they come back and study this time period based upon the members of the MAGA party and experts around cults and how that stuff works, what that's going to look like in like 10, 20 years or whenever they come back to research that. And I do kind of feel for that, like to a degree, like if that actually does happen, like if let's say Trump does lose, there's nobody that's going to be able to take his shoes. So you're going to have a whole lot of cult members out here just like flailing their arms.
Walking around aimlessly,
like
essentially,
zombies.
Because yes, there's going to be a lot of hurt feelings.
You know what, though? He can stay alive, and that he doesn't win this time, he will run again.
You think?
Yes.
Hey, I mean, we just talked about the lack of seriousness on his side. So to Jay Moore's point,
I'm not trying to be funny, but like, I want you to think about this. After January 6th, after he lost the White House, the Senate, and the House, and they were still like, "This is our guy."
He didn't go away. There was people literally saying that he's really still president. And you're going to see on this date and this time,
John F. Kennedy Jr. is going to come back out.
They're going to take the veil off, and Biden, he's really a clone. That's not really, man. They've been on a tear.
One Biden wears this tie, and there's another Biden that wears this tie.
Pulled back like this and that, and like, have y'all never seen people that have had plastic surgery done?
Listen,
guys,
man.
I'm letting you know this right now. I'm putting it out in the air. Trump. 2028. Let's go.
Let's go. You heard it here first on the New Old Heads podcast. NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see us anywhere, like it, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and also remember to give us a 5-star rating when you see us. We appreciate the support, and don't forget to check our Patreon out for other options as well. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Yeah.